Next, in your justification process, you need to outline the likelihood and severity of injury, ill health, or harm occurring, taking in account the current or existing control measures. Basically, for every action you selected, you need to say what is the likelihood of a hazardous event to occur, including how did you reach this assumption. In addition, you need to suggest the severity of the hazardous event should it occur based on the existing control measures. Typically, you need to consider the types of injury or ill health or harm likely to be seen, the number of workers at risk, how often the activity is carried out, and how widespread the risk is. For example, does the same threat exist in other parts, branches, sites of the organization? This will help to show the examiner the importance of your suggested additional control measures. Lastly, in your justification, you need to include details of how effective each action selected is likely to be in controlling the risk. Here, you should describe at least the following: the intended impact of each action, justification of the time scale for completion for each action, and whether you think the action will fully control the risk. Let's look at each of these. The first thing is the intended impact of each action. In this case, the effect you believe the additional action may have on the hazard. The second is the justification of the time scale for completion of each action. It includes reasons why you decided on a specific duration to complete an action. This could be any reasonable justification, for example, the time needed to order or purchase a spare part, or the time needed to arrange a training, etc. And whether you think the action will fully control the risk. Here you should suggest the extent to which you believe the additional actions may control the risk. The fourth and the last stage of the risk assessment exercise is reviewing, communicating, and checking. You must use the tables in part 4 of the assessment pack. In this stage, you need to include at least the following. Number 1, set a realistic review date for the risk assessment and say why you have chosen that review date. Justify your choice, for example, if there is a legal requirement for a specific date or an internal company arrangement, etc. Second is indicate how the findings of the risk assessment are to be communicated. Is it verbal or written update, and the methods to be used, for example, via email, notice boards, etc. And number 3, who needs to know the information? For example, if you're going to communicate it to the general manager, to the workshop staff, to the drilling supervisor, etc. Indicate how you will follow up on the risk assessment to check that the actions have been carried out. For instance, you may set reminders for the dates of implementing the actions, and follow up or investigate reasons in case the actions are not done and try to make it happen, or at least give an extension date. Once you are done with all stages of the risk assessment, make sure you check your work based on the checklist found in the assessment pack. You can only get a pass in this assessment if you meet the criteria needed to reach the pass result. In case you do not meet the criteria needed, you get a refer and you need to resubmit your risk assessment, as we said. To clarify, you will get a refer if you do any of the following. This is just a list of examples. If you do not include a methodology in stage 1, for example. If you include 9 hazards instead of 10 in stage 2. If you include 10 hazards from 4 categories instead of 5 hazard categories. If you include 10 hazards but do not state the hazard category of each one. If you prioritize 2 actions instead of 3. Or if you include how the risk assessment will be communicated but do not say who needs to know the information, for example. These are just few examples of what may lead you to get a refer result or fail to pass your assessment for this unit. To conclude this lesson, let me tell you a little bit about malpractice for this assessment. Any of the following examples may fall under the malpractice policy. Submitting work which is not your own and putting your name on it. Copying your risk assessment from any source, including online samples or the sample provided by NEBOSH. Submitting a draft to your tutor for pre-marking or checking. Asking for or receiving help from anyone while conducting the risk assessment. These are just few examples of malpractice, but we highly encourage you to download the NEBOSH malpractice policy and read it carefully. I hope this introduction helps you to complete your NEBOSH International General Certificate Unit 2 assessment. Don't forget to download the unit assessment pack from the NEBOSH website. Good luck! If you like this lesson, why don't you consider our full e-learning program? I'll talk to you there.